Okay, so my name's Sarah from Socialist Alternative, and I'm going to talk to Jordan, who, well, has been forced to become a housing campaigner in Hackney in London, I would say. So, hi, Jordan.
Hi.
I was thinking the first thing to ask you about is your landlord, because most people's landlords are not on the Sunday Times rich list. So tell us a bit about your landlord.
Yeah, so actually at first we didn't know who our landlord was because we live in a block of flats. There are about 170 flats in the building that is managed all by a single letting agent. But we have kind of different companies that are named as the landlord. So ours, I believe, is called Simpson House 3. But with a bit of detective work, we managed to discover that all of those companies are majority owned by a man named John Christodoulou. So he is now number 82 on the Sunday Times rich list, and for practical purposes kind of is our landlord, and is a kind of property baron who lives in the tax haven of Monaco, and owns properties all over London.
And so you first approached your landlord kind of at the start of lockdown with some requests about assistance in relation to that. Yeah, do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, it started out as a very kind of simple request, which was at the beginning of lockdown, we had a kind of WhatsApp group of people in the building, and people were just writing about how they were struggling to afford rent as they were going on furlough or being made redundant, or what was really common is a lot of people in precarious kind of freelance employment that weren't getting any work. So we kind of helped draft a collective letter that asked for a 20% discount on rent for the lockdown. And for a sort of guarantee that nobody would be evicted if they accrued rent arrears during that time, and put it kind of very politely and with a real like kind of open invitation to have a conversation about what could be done. And I mean, I guess just to say that, so the response was not good. I mean, we were told that our demands were completely unrealistic, and got this very nasty, hostile response from the letting agent, which basically told us that we could use the money that we'd saved on our canceled holidays and lunches to pay the rent in full. And also that because wear and tear was increasing on the building during lockdown, this would be at the cost of the landlord. So that we should, I guess, have sympathy with this billionaire for the fact that we're staying in our homes longer than he'd like us to.
Yeah, and then it actually gets worse from there, isn't it? Because my understanding is there's then actually, quite terrible intimidation attempts from the landlord after that.
Yeah. I mean, so after that, it just became nastier and nastier. Like the WhatsApp group that we'd been using to communicate with one another, we discovered had been infiltrated, and that messages we were sharing with one another were being passed on to the letting agent and landlord. Then a number of us received legal threats from a law firm claiming that we were attempting to procure breach of contract, which was a kind of, I guess, union busting law that we weren't aware of, and basically threatened to take us to court for any money that basically if tenants were not paying their rent, that we would be held liable for that because we were supposedly telling them not to pay their rent. Eventually, my partner and I were threatened with an additional £20,000 in legal costs for other kind of organizing that we did. And then finally, to fast forward to today, just a couple days ago, we received a Section 21 eviction notice, and we're told that we have to leave the flat in September, despite actually our household having been fortunate enough to afford rent. So we've paid rent on time, but it seems to us that because we've been kind of publicly involved with a lot of this organizing, we've been targeted to be kicked out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really outrageous. So where's the campaign up to now, and what are your plans?
Well, we just had a big barbecue last weekend, which was a kind of social event for people in the building to get to know each other a bit more and kind of just talk with one another about what they've been through. We've been doing lots of door knocking. I guess the biggest thing that we launched is we have this website, somerfordgroverenters.com, where we have an open letter to John Christodoulou asking him to come to the table. And I mean, things, I guess, are going to take a shift now that we have this, quite awful eviction notice. So I think the focus is going to be on challenging that and making it clear that no one should be evicted for speaking out and having that overturned. And we're going to be planning lots of actions around that in the days to come. So anyone who signs that open letter will be added to our email list, or we'll send updates about what's next.
Yeah, absolutely, and full solidarity from Socialist Alternative in that campaign, and we'll definitely be there with you on those actions and stuff. So one final question is, I suppose, what do you think, how does this fit into the general picture of housing? And I know you've kind of been raising points about, the impact on the ongoing gentrification process in the local area and that kind of thing. What do you think about those kind of points?
Yeah, I mean, we've tried to make the point that although the 20% rent reduction is something that people in our building absolutely need and deserve, that it's also something that would benefit the wider community, because we're located in Hackney, which is a place that has seen the fastest rent rises, I think, in possibly all of the UK, or at least in all of London. And so and we're in a building that's all owned by ultimately a single landlord. So if we were able to achieve a rent reduction, that would have a significant impact on rents in the area and would be a real boon both to fighting gentrification and to showing that people can come together and do that. So I think this campaign has importance beyond just our own building. And then to add to that, of course, now the fact that we've received this eviction notice, it really highlights how terrible housing law is in this country. The fact that someone can be evicted for no grounds whatsoever other than speaking out. And so, again, I think if we were able to challenge that successfully, it would show landlords that they should think twice before trying to get rid of tenants.
Absolutely. Well, thanks very much, Jordan, for speaking to us, and again, full solidarity for your campaign.
Thanks so much, Sarah.